Jack had only been on the mining outpost for 3 hours when he lost his wrench. It wasn't just any wrench. It was a custom plasma tool. One he had carried from Earth. He placed it beside his bag for a moment, and now it was gone. He looked around the metal repair bay. Empty. No footsteps, no sound. Only the soft hum of the ship's power lines. He scratched his head. Maybe he dropped it outside. He stepped into the hallway. Then he heard it, a tiny giggle, not loud, not close. But it echoed through the pipes like a whisper, "Hello." Jack called. No answer. Just another soft giggle, like someone trying not to laugh. He turned around fast, but the hallway was still empty. Then something slid across the floor near his feet. His wrench. It spun and stopped right beside his boot. Jack knelt to pick it up slowly. Who's there? Silence. He checked the shadows. He saw nothing. But he felt that someone was watching him. The next morning, Jack was fixing a generator near the cargo lift. He opened his toolkit. And all the screws were replaced with small, glowing stones, blue, smooth, and warm. Alien pebbles from Sector 3. He looked around again. "All right, prankster," he muttered. "You got me." Another giggle came from above. He looked up just in time to catch a glimpse of a small figure darting through the air duct grates. It was not human, not tall enough, not fast enough, but it was clever, and clearly very curious. Later that day, Jack asked around, "Who's that small alien hiding in the vents?" "Don't worry about her," said Officer Brock, a tall, lizard-faced guard. "She's a reject. No use, no purpose. Some test hybrid that never worked. She lives in the unused sections, feeds off scraps, thinks it's funny to play tricks." Brock snorted. "We don't stop her. She's just noise." Jack frowned. "She has a name." Brock shrugged. "Maybe. No one cares." That evening, Jack returned to his bunk to find his bed full of those glowing stones again. On top of the pile sat a folded piece of paper in shaky handwriting. It said, "You looked sad. These are happy stones." Jack chuckled. She'd been watching him more than he thought. He lay back on the floor instead of the bed, holding the note. Was this teasing? Or was this the only way she knew how to talk to someone? The next day, while working near the fuel tanks, Jack heard a soft thump behind him. He turned and saw her finally, tiny, barely chest-high. Her skin was a soft, pale violet with glowing freckles like stars. Her silver eyes watched him carefully. She stood like a cat ready to flee, but her lips curled in a mischievous smile. "You're fast," Jack said. Pretending not to be surprised, she tilted her head. "You're slow," she replied, "but nice smelling." He blinked. "Thanks." She laughed again and ran off before he could say another word. He couldn't help but smile. That night, Jack found a small metal sculpture outside his door. It was a tiny version of him holding a wrench. Crude, but thoughtful. Attached was another note. "Don't leave. You're the only one who looks at me without fear." Jack stood there for a long time. The hallway was quiet, but he knew she was watching again. Somewhere in the shadows, hidden, lonely, and hoping someone would care. Others on the outpost laughed. "Looks like you've got a fan. She'll lose interest. They always do." But Jack didn't laugh. He looked up at the dark pipes and wondered what pain that tiny alien girl was hiding beneath her endless teasing. What made her cry when no one was around? The mischief had only just begun, but Jack knew this wasn't just a game. Something deeper was going on, and the outpost wasn't as safe or kind as it seemed. Jack started his morning with a cup of recycled coffee, his toolbox in one hand and his eyes scanning the ceiling vents. He didn't know when she'd appear, but he knew she would. He was assigned to the water recycler room. Deep in the old section of the outpost, that part of the station was dusty, dim, and forgotten, perfect for someone who didn't want to be found. or someone who had nowhere else to go. As he worked on the broken filters, he saw a shadow dart past the doorway. No footsteps, just a flicker of movement. He smiled. She's here again, he whispered, almost happy, even if she was just a prankster. Her presence made the cold metal station feel a little less lonely. Later, during his break, Jack sat on an old crate outside the mess hall. He noticed her again, hiding behind a supply bin, just her glowing eyes and 2 fingers peeking out. She thought she was invisible. He waved slowly. She froze. Then she stepped out. Cautious but curious, she was barefoot, wearing a torn thermal suit way too big for her. Her hair was messy, her skin a bit dirty, but her eyes sparkled like moonlight. "What's your name?" Jack asked gently. She looked away. "I don't know. I forget." Then she paused. "One lady called me Callie once." Then she got taken away. "Callie," Jack said softly. "I like that." She looked up, surprised. "No one says my name," she whispered. "They just say Thing or Mutant Girl." Jack's chest tightened. It was clear now she wasn't just a tease or a shadow in the vents. She was someone lost, someone forgotten. Over the next few days, Callie followed Jack everywhere. She never asked permission. She'd just appear, sit on a pipe, or hang upside down from a beam, watching, sometimes mocking. Sometimes silent, she teased him by switching his tools when he wasn't looking. But when Jack pretended to be angry, she'd quickly return everything twice as clean. Jack noticed the others glaring when she was around. He asked one of the senior mechanics, "Why does everyone hate her?" The man grunted, "Because she's not supposed to be here." "Was she born here?" Jack asked. "No, created." The man spat. "She's a failed hybrid, one of those secret gene mix kids. Part insect, part human, part alien. No use to anyone." Jack was stunned. "She's just a child. She's a problem," the man said coldly. They should have spaced her long ago. That night, Jack sat on the floor of his room, staring at the small metal collie had made for him, a crooked figure with tiny tools in its hand. She had left another note too. "I was built to fight, but I don't want to fight. Is that bad?" Jack didn't know how to answer. He wrote something on a scrap of plastic and left it outside his room. "It's not bad. It's brave." The next morning, the note was gone, but Collie's laughter came from the ceiling pipes again, softer this time, like wind through leaves. The teasing slowed down after that. Callie became more quiet. She still followed him, still smiled, but there was sadness behind her glow. One day, she sat beside him while he worked on a heating vent. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then she whispered, "They said they'll erase me soon. I heard them talking. I'm a glitch." Jack dropped his wrench. "What? They don't want me around. I'm not useful, and I don't obey orders." "I laugh too much," she said with a half smile, "and I steal sandwiches." Jack stared at her, his heart pounded. Callie tried to laugh it off, but her hands were shaking. "I won't let that happen," Jack said firmly. She looked at him like no one ever had, like someone had just reached across a deep black hole and grabbed her hand. From that moment, Jack made a choice. He wouldn't treat her like a mistake. He wouldn't let the outpost erase her. She was more than a glitch. She was real, alive, and she mattered. Even if no one else cared, he would, no matter the cost. Jack was repairing the oxygen filters in Bay 3 when Callie climbed down from the wall like a spider. She didn't make a sound. She crouched behind a toolbox and watched him. Her silver eyes glowed in the dim light. "You gonna help, Jack?" asked, smiling without looking, "or just stare at me again?" Callie stuck out her tongue and tossed him a wrench. It was the wrong one. He held it up with a grin. "Very funny." Callie giggled, jumped down, and grabbed the right tool from the box. She handed it to him like a princess offering a sword. Jack had grown used to her strange rhythm. Tease, run, hide, help, repeat. She was like a mix of child and animal, wild, curious, but afraid to trust. Still, Jack noticed something had changed. She was quieter. Her jokes didn't last long. Her smiles vanished faster than before. Later that day, Kali sat beside him while he checked the fusion vents. They shared a piece of dry bread. Well, she stole it first, then returned half. Jack pretended to be annoyed, but she saw through it. You used to laugh more, he said. Kali shrugged. You used to be slow, he laughed, but she didn't join this time. Then she looked at the vent with a sad face. Do you think stars ever get lonely? Jack blinked. Stars. Yeah. They shine all the time. But no one really sees them unless it's dark. Jack looked at her carefully. Is that how you feel? Kali turned away. Doesn't matter. That night, Jack visited the old cargo hold. Kali had made it her. Secret dentine lights strung across the beams. Old blankets and boxes shaped into a nest. He found a drawing taped to the wall done with rust and charcoal. It showed a small girl with bug-like legs holding hands with a tall human next to. It were scribbled words, "Don't disappear too." Jack touched the picture softly, behind the jokes, behind the tricks. She was scared, deeply scared of being left alone again. The next morning, Kali didn't show up. Jack checked every pipe, hallway, and vent he could find. No giggles. No glowing eyes, no pranks. He finally found her near the waste pit. Curled into a ball, her arms were scraped, her suit torn. She looked up slowly. Someone had hurt her, Kali. Jack rushed to her side. She tried to smile. Told you I'm hard to erase. Who did this? She said nothing, but tears formed in her eyes. They don't like me near you, she whispered. They say you're too soft. Jack clenched his fists. This wasn't just teasing anymore. Someone wanted her gone badly. Jack took her to his bunk. Let her rest on the floor with his old jacket as a pillow. He sat beside her, silent. Then Kali spoke again. When I was small, they put wires in my head, she said quietly. Tried to make me strong, fast, a perfect scout. But I laughed too much, failed all the tests. They called me broken. You're not broken, Jack said, voice firm. I pretended I didn't care, she whispered. But I do. I really do. Then her voice cracked. I just wanted someone to see me. Jack didn't speak. He gently placed a hand on her shoulder. She didn't pull away. The next day, something changed between them. Kali didn't hide anymore. She walked beside Jack, openly ignoring the stares, the whispers. But Jack noticed one thing. The supervisors were watching too. And not with kindness. Supervisor Rigg approached him near the mess hall. You getting attached to the pest? Jack didn't answer. She's dangerous, Rigg warned. She's not one of us. You'll regret it. Jack met his eyes. No, I won't. That night, Kali sat on Jack's bed, her legs swinging. I used to dream of flying away, she said, but my wings never grew. You don't need wings, Jack replied. You just need someone who won't let you fall. Kali looked at him with wide, watery eyes. Then she smiled. Real one, not hiding behind mischief. Don't disappear, Jack, she whispered. Please. The cracks in her mask were no longer small. They were wide and deep. And Jack could see the truth clearly now. Kali didn't just need a friend. She needed saving before it was too late. And someone was already planning to erase her for good. Jack didn't sleep that night. He lay on his narrow bunk with the lights off, but his mind kept replaying Kali's broken voice. Don't disappear, Jack. Please. Kali was already asleep. On a pile of soft cloth near the wall, she curled up like a kitten, holding a piece of metal shaped like a star. Jack had given it to her earlier. She'd smiled and said, Now I have my own sky. But Jack felt a weight on his chest. something wasn't right, and soon. Everything would go wrong. The next morning, Jack returned to his usual workstation near Power Bay 6. Kali followed silently. No jokes, no pranks. She held onto the back of his coat like a child afraid of being left behind. They fixed a broken vent together, but she was distracted. She kept looking over her shoulder. Her ears twitched at every noise. Finally, she whispered, they were talking again. Last night, Jack stopped working. Who? The two men with red bands on their arms, Rig, and the one with the burned face. What did they say? Jack asked, trying to stay calm. They said, they'll clean the system, Kali whispered, and that, I'm clutter. Jack's hands tightened into fists. This wasn't just cruelty now. It was a plan. Someone wanted to erase her for good. Later that afternoon, Jack pretended to return to his room, but instead, he followed Rig. He moved quietly through the lower halls, using old maintenance paths. Kali had shown him. He reached the command room. The door was slightly open. Inside, Rig and the burned-faced man were talking. Tomorrow at shift change, Rig said coldly, we flush her out of the vent system. Once she's in the open, we report an accident. The other man grunted. Won't the human cause trouble? If he does, Rig said, we erase him too. Jack's heart froze. He stepped back slowly, almost losing his balance. They weren't just targeting Kali. They were willing to kill him, too just for protecting her. He rushed back to his room, breath shallow. Kali was gone. He panicked till he found a glowing stone on the floor. A trail of them led to the old storage wing. He followed. Fast, he found her in her usual hideout, the cargo nest. She was fixing a tiny broken drone. Her hands moved slowly. Her head low. When Jack walked in, she didn't look up. They'll do it soon, she said quietly. I know, Jack replied, kneeling beside her. She glanced at him. They always clean their mistakes. I'm just another one. You're not a mistake, he said firmly. Kali's lip trembled. You don't understand. I was made in a lab, Jack. They wanted a spy, fast and clever. But I felt too much. I couldn't follow cruel orders, so they threw you away. Kali nodded slowly. They tested us in rooms. Some kids didn't come back. I laughed once during a drill. And they said I was broken, that I wasn't a weapon, just a waste. Jack stood up. We're not staying, he said. Kali blinked. What? We're leaving this outpost tonight. But we can't, she said quickly. All the docks are locked. My ID is fake. I don't exist. Jack smiled. Then we fake something better. That evening, Jack went to the comms panel and created a new cargo request. He used an old Earth clearance code 1 no one used anymore. Then he hacked a storage manifest and placed a container order under his name inside that container. Would be Kali, hidden in a recycler crate. It was dangerous, but it was the only way. When he returned to her nest, Kali had packed a tiny satchel inside her glowing stones. The metal star and Jack's old tool. She looked up at him with wide eyes. Will I be safe? Really? Jack placed a hand on her shoulder. You'll be free. As they moved through the quiet hallways at night, the lights flickered. Someone had tampered with the power. Then came the voice over the intercom. All hands report to level 3. Intruder alert in the lower bays. Jack froze. Kali grabbed his arm. They're looking for me. They turned the corner and came face to face with Rig. The man grinned coldly. Going somewhere, freak. Jack stepped forward, blocking Kali. You won't touch her. Rig raised a baton. You think you can stop us, human? Jack smiled thinly. No, but I know someone who can. Suddenly, a swarm of old drones Kali had secretly fixed buzzed to life, flooding from the vents. They circled Rig, blinding him with sparks and static bursts. Jack grabbed Kali's hand and ran. They reached the cargo bay just in time. The crate was waiting. Jack helped her inside, covering her with wiring and cloth. She looked up at him. "You'll come too, right?" Jack hesitated. "If I come now, they'll know something's wrong. I'll follow in a day. I promise." Kali nodded slowly, her lip trembling again. "Don't disappear," she whispered. "Not like the others." Jack leaned in, placed the metal star in her hand. "I'm not like the others." And with that, the crate sealed shut. The ship lifted off hours later, taking Kali away from the place that never wanted her and Jack. He had just declared war on the system because now it's something worth fighting for. The crate moved. Gently as the ship hummed through space, Kali stayed hidden under cloth and wires. Her tiny hands clutched the metal star Jack had given her. Every few minutes, she whispered to herself, "Don't open it. Stay quiet. He'll find you." The lights inside the crate were faint, just enough for her to see the edge of her satchel. She could feel the rumble of the engines below her. Every time someone passed by, her breath froze. She didn't sleep. She didn't cry. Not yet. Back on the outpost, Jack sat in the dark corner of his room. He hadn't left since the crate launched. If the supervisors saw his face now, they'd know he was involved. They'd lock him away, or worse, but none of that mattered. Kali was out. She was alive. That was all he needed for now. He stared at the vent cover where she used to peek her head through. It was quiet now, too quiet. Jack felt like he had lost something, even though he had done the right thing. On the ship, Kali finally drifted into sleep, but her dreams were not kind. She saw dark rooms filled with metal chairs and cold hands. She heard voices again, failure, broken, unstable. Then she saw Jack, smiling, reaching out his hand, but the dream twisted, he faded, and she stood alone in a void. She screamed his name, Jack. She woke up suddenly, sweating, breathing hard. Inside the crate, everything was still, but the nightmare still echoed inside her chest. After many hours, the ship docked at a refueling station. Kali stayed quiet, not knowing how long she had. To hide then, a sudden noise, metal clanking, someone dragging the crate. Voices she didn't recognize. She tensed, gripping the cloth tighter. The crate shook, stopped, then cracked open. A tall, bald man with an oxygen mask stared in. "What the hell is this?" he muttered. Then she screamed. Loud and sharp, the man stepped back in shock. Kali leaped out like a shadow, kicking him in the leg and darting past the other crew. They shouted, surprised. But she was faster than they expected. She raced down the hallway, crawling through a side pipe, and hid inside a waste chute. Heart pounding. Now she was loose. Now she was alone again, back on the outpost. Jack had made his decision. He would leave tonight. He packed his things, made a fake ID, and used an old mining pass to gain access to a transport ship headed toward the fueling station. He knew Kali's crate was supposed to be dropped there for scanning before being sent onward. If something went wrong, he had to be there. As the ship launched, he looked out the window. Stars passed by, but his heart was somewhere else, hiding in fear, glowing in silver eyes, waiting to be held again. Kali had stayed hidden in the waste chute for hours. The smell didn't bother her anymore. She was used to worse. She didn't know where she was, didn't know if Jack was coming, but she clutched the metal star tightly, whispering, "He promised." Finally, when the lights dimmed across the station for night cycle, she crept out. The hallways were quiet. She tiptoed toward a window and looked out. Stars again. Just stars. She sat against the cold wall, tired, alone. And that's when the tears came, soft at first, like raindrops, then harder, like she had held them in for years. She cried into her arms, rocking slowly, for all the days she spent hiding, for all the nights she whispered to the vents, for the pain of being called useless, and for the fear that maybe Jack had left her too. But then, a voice. Soft, deep, real, Kali. Her head shot up. Jack was standing there, breathless, dirt on his face, eyes wide. She didn't move. She couldn't believe it. "You came," she whispered, voice cracking. "I told you," Jack said, stepping closer. "I'm not like the others." Kali jumped into his arms. She buried her face in his chest, and for the first time in her life, she felt safe. Not because she was hidden, but because someone had finally found her and stayed. They sat on the floor like that for a long time. No more words, just her small body shaking in his arms, and Jack holding her like she was the most important thing in the galaxy. He knew now this wasn't just about saving her, it was about healing her, because sometimes the strongest warriors are the ones who finally feel safe enough to cry. Jack held Kali close until her tears stopped. He didn't rush her, didn't ask questions. He just sat with her quiet and steady while the station outside continued its cold hum. She finally pulled away, wiping her glowing eyes with the back of her sleeve. "I'm sorry," she whispered, embarrassed. Jack shook his head. Never be sorry for feeling something. Kali gave a small smile, one filled with sadness and gratitude. But there wasn't time to rest. Jack stood and looked around the corridor. "This place isn't safe for long." "They'll come looking for you, Kali." She nodded. "I heard them talking. They're alerting stations near this one. If anyone sees me, I'm done." Jack paced, thinking fast. He didn't have much, no weapon, no real authority, no backup. But he had one thing. Kali trusted him, and he would not let her down. "There's a private shuttle docked here for ore transport," he said. "I worked on the engines once. It's barely guarded because no one steals or ships." Kali's eyes lit up. "You want to steal it?" Jack grinned. "Borrow it very fast." She laughed softly for the first time since the crate. But then her face turned serious. "It'll have a beacon. They'll trace it. Then we disable the beacon," Jack said. "We take it in two. The belt, kill the signal, and vanish. There's a smuggler zone past Sector 8. We can find help there." Kali's hands shook a little as she packed her tiny bag again. But Jack saw the determination in her eyes. This time, she wasn't just running. She was escaping with someone who believed in her. Together, they snuck through the narrow maintenance shafts. Jack used his stolen passcode to open sealed doors. Kali slipped ahead, checking corners, moving like a shadow. Her small size and quick steps gave them an advantage. She knew how to stay unseen. She'd done it her whole life. They reached the ore shuttle dock by midnight station time. Only one old guard sat at the desk, half asleep. Kali crawled through the top duct while Jack walked straight in, pretending to be a mechanic. "Routine check on fuel lines," Jack said casually, holding up a forged report pad. The guard waved him through. Not even reading it, Kali dropped down inside the shuttle moments later, grinning. That was too easy. She whispered, "Don't say that," Jack replied. "You'll jinx it." Inside the shuttle, dust coated the panels. The ship hadn't flown in weeks. But Jack knew how to start old machines. He got the engine humming quietly. Kali found the beacon system and pulled the wires. "Done," she said. Jack nodded. "Let's fly before someone wakes up." But just as they were about to launch, a red light flashed on the console. Someone had triggered an alarm at the dock gate. "They know," Kali whispered. Eyes wide, Jack cursed under his breath. He flipped the switches, hands flying across. Controls, the ship lifted slow and shaky at first, then faster, outside. Lights turned on across the dock. Voices shouted. Guards pointed. One fired a pulse shot that hit the back panel. Sparks flew. Kali ducked and grabbed the edge of her seat. Jack gritted his teeth. "Hold on." The shuttle burst through the dock doors just before they closed. It spun once in open space, then corrected behind them. Alarms blared across the station. A warning beacon launched, but it was already too late. They were gone, vanishing in two. The belt of frozen rock and space dust, the debris field, gave them cover, and the beacon they left behind. It sent false signals, leading anyone who followed in the wrong direction. For 2 hours, they flew in silence. Kali sat beside Jack in the co-pilot seat. Her face was pale, but her eyes glowed. She looked at him. "You really did it, Jack?" Smiled tiredly. "No, we did it." She stared ahead at the stars. "Do you think we'll be safe?" Jack looked out the window. "We're not safe yet. But we're free. That's a good start." Later, Kali stood at the back of the shuttle, staring at the deep space outside. She touched the glass softly. "Every day I thought I'd be deleted. Erased, just like a broken code." Jack stood. Beside her. "They tried," he said, "but you're still here." She turned to him. "Because of you." "No," Jack said softly, "because you didn't give up." She didn't speak. Instead, she stepped closer and leaned against him. "I used to think no one would ever care if I lived or died," she said, voice small, "but now, I want to live." Jack placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we'll find a place where you can. Together." Outside the shuttle, the stars kept moving. The galaxy didn't notice their escape. But inside that small ship, two souls had found something bigger than freedom. They had found each other, and that made everything worth it. 3 days passed since the escape. The shuttle floated deep in a quiet pocket of space, hidden behind drifting ice rocks and dead satellites. Jack had powered down everything but life support to avoid detection. The galaxy was silent here. No signals, no pursuit. Just peace. Kali sat cross-legged on the floor near the control panel. She played with a tiny drone. Jack gave her one that blinked weak lights and danced when she touched it. She had already named it Blinky. It made her laugh, even if. Just for a second, Jack watched her from the pilot's seat. She looked calmer now. Her shoulders weren't so tight. Her eyes didn't jump at every noise. Still, she hadn't asked what happens next. Not even once. And that told Jack something: she wasn't used to having a future. Later that day, Jack opened a storage locker and found an old map, chip one, used by smugglers to mark uncharted places. He loaded it into the system. A name popped up: Station Hollowstar. It was a forgotten mining hub on the edge of the drift zone. No government ships, no scanners, just survivors, outcasts, and people who didn't ask questions. Jack smiled. It was perfect. He called Kali over. "See this dot?" He pointed. She leaned in, eyes curious. "That's where we're going." "What's there?" "People who mind their own business. A place to hide. Maybe even a new life." Kali stared at the dot. "A new life," she whispered like. The words were strange and beautiful. She looked up at him. "And you'll stay?" Jack nodded. "I'm not leaving you." The journey to Hollowstar took a full day. As they approached, the station came into view. A giant broken ring spinning slowly in the dark. Lights flickered weakly across its surface. It looked abandoned. But Jack knew better. Smugglers didn't need shiny things, just working ones. As the shuttle docked, the airlock opened with a groan. Thick metal doors creaked, revealing a corridor full of steam, flickering panels, and voices in languages Jack didn't understand. Kali grabbed his hand tightly. He squeezed back. "Stay close." Inside Hollowstar, no one cared who they were. A giant insect being ran the docking fees. A three-eyed trader sold stale food and warm blankets. No one asked about IDs. No one looked twice at the tiny alien girl with silver eyes and glowing freckles. It was strange. And it was good. They rented a small room on level 3, just above the fuel tanks. It smelled like oil and old wires, but it was safe. Jack cleaned it up while Collie hung her glowing stones around the vent fan. It made the room feel like a nest again. Her nest. That night, Callie sat near the window. She stared at the stars outside. Her voice was soft when she spoke. "Do you think? I was meant to survive." Jack looked at her. "I think you were meant to change everything." She tilted her head. "How?" "By showing someone that even something thrown away can still shine." Collie smiled, then slowly laid her head on his shoulder. "I don't feel like trash anymore," she whispered. Jack closed his eyes. "Good. Because you never were." The next morning, Collie started helping the repair crews on Hollowstar. She fixed a leaking pipe in minutes, rewired a vending machine that had been dead for years. A grumpy old mechanic named Bolg patted her on the head and said, "You got magic fingers, kid." She beamed. Jack watched from afar, and for the first time in many days, he let himself breathe. Weeks passed. Collie laughed more. She built new drones, sold trinkets, and even taught a floating robot to dance. People on Hollowstar didn't care where she came from. They cared what she could do, and what she could do was amazing. One quiet evening, as they sat watching a red sun sink behind asteroid clouds, Collie asked, "Do you think I'm fixed now?" Jack looked at her, confused. "You were never broken," he said. She thought for a second, then smiled. "I know." She leaned her head against him again. But this time, there were no tears. Only peace, in a galaxy that had tried to erase. Her one human had reached out his hand, had said, "You matter," and that made all the difference. The tiny alien girl who used to tease and run, who used to cry alone in the dark, now stood in the light, building her future one glowing piece at a time.